the darkest corners of your mind.
They got up on the wrong side.
You are not going crazy.
One by one, campers were found with eyes, ears ripped out.
Something's out there.
Never go in the woods alone.
There's a lot of pressure under that kind of stress, and he might become irrational.
Oh no! I'm sorry!
Hi, I'm Deborah Voorhees. I play Tina in Friday the 13th, Part 5, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
Yes, welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, episode number 40. Blimey, we're getting up in the high numbers now. And this episode, Nathan has chosen another backwards slasher movie, Don't Go Into the Woods Alone, or perhaps not alone, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But before we get started, how are we doing, guys? How about you, Nathan? How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Excellent.
How are you doing, Justin? How is Seabiscuit?
Seabiscuit is very well. We're just about to we're about to have a new addition to the family.
Oh,
congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. Thankfully, it's not a baby. It's we've got another cat. We've got a local. Well, we've basically been feeding this tomcat for the last couple of months, and we flyered around the streets to find out if he belonged to anyone, and no one's claimed him. So we went to cat protection today and got a cat trap. So we're going to trap him and take him to the vets and cut his balls off. So I'm sure he's going to be delighted.
He's going to love you for that.
He's going to love us for that. But so we're doing the good thing, and then we're going to keep him indoors and see. He's coming into the house, and he kind of hisses at us, but I'm sure he'll get.
What's his name? Provisional name?
Well, we start calling him Snowflake, which was kind of an ironic way because he's this like massive great bruiser. So he needs a really butch name, I think, like Captain Muggins or something. Yes, so that's what I've been doing, and the last episode, because what's kind of weird, I kind of guess in some ways, because of summer holidays, we're recording these a little bit out of kilter, or out of sequence, and so we're recording this at the beginning of July, well, sort of in the first week of July, and it's not going out until the end of July. But last episode, which is the Friday 13th episode, which you would have heard by now, I managed to, I didn't actually crack my rib, but I actually I did something, dislodged some cartilage during the podcast, but show what troopers we are. We managed to get through that without me screaming, but I've got a backache now, which I think has come from that, so I'm sitting bolt upright and it doesn't hurt too much. But I know someone else with another malaise is you, Joseph, you've got a rather appropriate malaise for this episode.
Yes, take their warning to heart. Do not go in the woods. For I did a few days ago, and now I have poison ivy, and it kept me up all night. But I got some medicine, and it's on the healing stage right now. I mean, it's still a little itchy, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was yesterday.
Calamine lotion.
It's Cal. It's the little more expensive kind. I went all out for mine.
Well, sorry to hear that. Because you get it quite. What's it look like? Because we don't have it over here.
Well, it's like 3 leaves, but it can also. See, I didn't touch any leaves, but it can also stick to trees. And I went swimming at this this little spot, and I sat on this tree stump to get prepared, and I think I've contracted that way.
Oh. Well, hopefully your rash will clear up soon.
Yeah,
Erik,
it'd be nice. I'd like
to
get some sleep.
Yes. Erik, have you got any rashes?
Not at the moment, though. No.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. But how are you otherwise?
That's how I am.
Well, you're kind of a bit.
Well, it's yet another rainy day in Ireland. Another great July's day in Ireland.
Oh, I'd kill for some rain right about now.
Oh, you were welcome to it.
Yes, we've had non-stop rain.
We'll trade.
Well, we've had non-stop rain here for about 6 weeks. It's actually blue skies at the moment today, but we've had the polar opposite of what you're having in America at the moment, which is endless deluge of floods and various,
I'll take it off your hands for a day or two.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a bit of your sunshine for a day or two, but
No, it wouldn't. Trust me.
okay, all right. But well, that's all of us. So we're back to do an episode on Don't Go Into the Woods a little bit later. We're also going to be doing another top 3, and this top 3 is going to be our favourite death scenes for killers in slasher movies. Now, obviously, that could be a little bit spoilerific, so just with to warn, we'll keep it as spoiler-free as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be that possible, but...
No, I'm not. Mine are very spoilery, I'm afraid to say.
So are mine.
Okay. Well, when we get to it, I guess what we can do is just say, this is a film, and if you haven't seen the film, then just fast forward a couple of minutes to the next one, and then we'll spoil that one for you.
Yep.
What else have we got? Well, that's kind of it. Oh, of course, we talk about our recently seen, I kind of guess. What have you been watching, Nathan? Have you been watching anything of interest?
Well, I haven't really watched any horror movies since the last episode, so I don't have any recently seen, unfortunately. I watched Magic Mike last night.
Oh, right. What was that like?
I really liked it.
Yeah,
very
I'm
much.
sure you did. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
There's lots of
G-strings.
Yeah, there's lots of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they go the full Monty?
No, you don't really see any full frontal in that movie. It's mostly ass.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to be said for ass.
It's not a film I'll be going to.
Is it not?
There's no bears dancing on the stage.
No.
Oh.
No.
Maybe
Now,
I'll do one.
if the killer from Don't Go in the Woods Alone was in it, maybe.
Oh, I should have known. I should have known, Erik.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nathan. We shall look out for Magic Mike when it finally makes its way over here. But how about you, Erik? What have you been watching?
Okay, for the first time ever, and at the recommendation of Meep from the forums, I watched Raising Cain, the Brian De Palma film, which is one I hadn't seen. And oh my God, it is cheese-tastic. It's I can't imagine what the movie critics' response to it was, because it really is barmy. It's about John Lithgow and his multiple personalities, and it ends on a final shot that's not quite up there with Sleepaway Camp, but kind of is in that vein. It's great fun. I thought, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for years and years, and I keep on meaning to watch it as well. But you enjoyed it.
I did, because I remember seeing the trailers for it when it came out in the early 90s and thinking, it looks a bit too serious and highbrow. How wrong I was.
I love that movie. It's so it's demented. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is so weird.
Excellent.
And I went a bit highbrow then for my other film this week, which was, again, the first time I'd seen it. I've been meaning to see it for a long time. It's The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Oh, right.
The Nicholas Roeg film.
Movie.
Yeah. I thought it was really, really interesting, although I was horrified to see David Bowie's nipples, because they are absolutely microscopic. I mean, I know he's supposed to be playing an alien, but it was really, really scary to see his nipples. I could have done without seeing his bum as well. It wasn't really my cup of tea. But I know the film is really good. It's very much a mood piece, and I mean, if you're approaching it looking for pure sci-fi thrills, I think you'll be sorely disappointed.
Because there's been a big David Bowie retrospective on recently.
That's kind of probably what prompted me to seek it out. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, I wonder if his nipples were especially for the film, or were they just freaky small nipples?
I don't know. I was thinking as I was watching him writhing around naked, I was thinking he'd make a great goth, because he's really, really skinny and really pale.
Well, Bauhaus kind of just ripped him off, didn't they? Really,
they did. Yeah.
P. Murphy, but
where do Bauhaus rank in your echelons of gothdom?
I really like Bauhaus.
So do I, actually.
Yeah, I think they're really good. Well, the first couple of albums, I kind of think they went off the boil a little bit, but yeah, I thought they were a good group. Although I think wasn't it famously they were challenged to a debate by some music journalist who completely ripped them to shreds. Because I think it was a lot of pretension without necessarily that much thought behind it, But yeah, no, it was the first couple of albums are great. But
they did Bela Lugosi's dead. Leave them alone.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they appear in The Hunger singing that song at the start.
Which has David Bowie in it as well, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Yes. See, all 7 degrees or 6 degrees, is it, of Kevin Bacon?
Of Kevin Bacon, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you, Eric. How about you, Joseph?
Well, I've seen a few things. Last night I rewatched Swim Fan, which, if there's any kind of movie I like almost as much as slasher films, it's the Something from Hell movie, and in this case, it's the Stalker from Hell movie. And it's basically, it's one of those riffs on Play Misty for Me or Fatal Attraction, where the bland hero does something stupid by having sex or cheating on his girlfriend, and later he suffers the consequences. In this case, it's this high school student who's really probably about 25 in the film, and he's like a swimmer, and he's trying to go to college on a swim scholarship. And so he has this apple pie girlfriend and an apple pie life and a humdrum, it's just bland white bread kind of vanilla life. And then this chick walks into his life, and she's kind of the bad girl, I guess, in a way, and then he ends up having sex with her, which is a big no-no, because then she starts, stalking him, and it's really bad and really silly and so melodramatic. But I love those movies for that very reason. I think they're a lot of fun. You know what you're going to get, so you can just sit back and kind of enjoy the ride.
I haven't seen that since it came out, I don't think.
Yeah, they're very kind of slasher-esque they're like a teenage version or like a PG version of a slasher film almost, without the killings, but a lot of the stalking and stuff of that nature. But yeah, I enjoy those types of movies. I just think they're a lot of fun.
Excellent. Anything else?
Yeah, Friday I rewatched for the first time in about 20 years, Class of 1984, which I really loved. We're rewatching that. It's basically this whole huge buildup. This gang of punks at the school just pushed this teacher to his breaking point, and then the last 20 minutes is him going on this rampage. Trying to get revenge on these punks at the school. But that's all I'll say about it to those who haven't seen it. But it's kind of suspenseful through the most part, and then the end is when it starts getting really bloody and violent. But yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Because we talked about, was it you watched that the other week, didn't you, Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah,
I did. Love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good film, isn't it? Has anyone seen? Didn't they do the sequel? Was it Class of 1999?
Well, it's by the same person, but it's not exactly a sequel. In this film, the teachers are robots.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't think. Well, I had. Yeah, I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen.
I actually like it a lot, though. It's really fun.
Cool. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there's one more. I watched a movie on Netflix called Messages Deleted. It's got Matt Lillard from Scream. He was the Stu character. And it's not bad. It's written by Larry Cohen, so it has that kind of oddball sense of humor about it, and it's got a really smart script. But the problem is that I think Matt Lillard is a little miscast, because he's trying to play like a serious role, but he still has that kind of goofiness underlining him, and it kind of took me away from his, out of the film a little bit, because I was kind of hoping for more of a straight-laced character, whereas he's kind of trying to be straight-laced, but he just can't pull it off. And yeah, here we go. And it's also got a last-second twist at the end, which is...
Oh, your hand!
Sorry to interrupt there.
All right. You had to get that one in there.
Yes.
It's also got this twist at the end of it, which is... I don't know if I understood it. I mean, I kind of understood, but it's so vague that you're just like, well, wait a minute. Is this what this means? Is that what that means? I don't know. It's just the movie's okay. It's basically about this Matt Lillard. He's a screenwriter, and he also teaches a screenwriting course. And basically, he's tried over and over to write movies, but he's always failed. And so he writes this one script called Senseless Killings. And basically someone out there, finds his script and starts like killing people one by one according to that script and trying to frame him for it. But I mean, it's okay. I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way to see it again, but it could be better, I'd say.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Well, thanks for that, guys. I'll just quickly run through. I've just seen a couple of things on Blu-ray. I watched. I haven't seen it for ages, but it's Evil Dead 2 on Blu-ray, and it's a film I saw at the cinema when it came out back in 1987. I always remember really enjoying it at the cinema, and the scene where the eyeball flies through the air and goes into that woman's mouth while she's screaming. Just remember it brought the house down at the cinema, and it was really good fun. I forgot, it's kind of funny looking back on it, actually how cheap it looks now, and I think because it seemed like such a huge increase in budget and special effects and everything from the first one, but actually looking back on it now, I think we've spoken about this before, haven't we, about how Blu-ray sometimes does a disservice to some older genre films, because it actually, what looks very effective on a kind of a kind of muddy looking VHS transfer, special effects wise, looks quite shoddy. And certainly in Evil Dead 2, there was kind of things like the bridge effects and stuff like, which were kind of quite kind of crude, kind of matte paintings, which it didn't stand out to me on video, but on Blu-ray. But having said that, it's it's a great film. I mean, obviously played for laughs more than the first one to some degree, but I mean, I know you're all kind of fans of that one, aren't you?
Oh, it's actually my favorite movie of favorite general horror film of all time. Evil Dead 2. I love that movie.
I love it, but I still prefer the first one, I think.
I agree with Erik.
I prefer. I kind of the second one is like more of a popcorn movie, isn't it, in some ways, or a very blood-soaked popcorn movie. But the first one's kind of still a bit scary. I think it's still kind of scary. Whereas the sequel doesn't. It's it's very much going for that kind of slapstick. But yeah, I mean, great. Good fun. And another film, bizarrely, that doesn't work particularly well on Blu-ray was David Fincher's Alien 3. Which watched again, just working your way through the kind of the Blu-ray box set of the Alien films, and I was shocked because I do like the third film. I think it's it stands up. It's interesting concept and great performances, and it's got some very effective set pieces, especially when they're being chased around the tunnels. And I remember watching that at the cinema, and that being even more effective on the big screen, because it was almost like one of those old style kind of. Did you ever have those in Ireland? I don't know if you may have had them in the States, but back in the 70s probably, you had these tents at fairgrounds where they shone a kind of a, I don't know, sort of like a point of view kind of camera on the screen, so it looked like you were everyone stood up, and it was like it would completely surrounded you, a bit like an IMAX, but much lower kind of rent version of that. And they used to do things like driving down the hills in San Francisco, and sort of as if you're sort of, so when the camera moved or when it suddenly stopped, everyone fell over. Did you ever have those?
No, don't recall those.
No, well, I'm probably showing my age there a bit, but they don't have them anymore. But anyway, I remember it was a bit like that for Alien 3. But the thing that really stuck out for me was the CGI in it was appalling. And it was kind of really flat. But also, I don't know what was going on with the Blu-ray transfer, or if it was just really bad CGI. But some of the shots of the alien, a lot of them were practical effects, which looked great still. But some of the CGI effects were kind of like, it was almost had a green hue to it, so it kind of looked as if it was almost, just looked really, really unrealistic, and stuck out like a sore thumb. Did you notice that, Erik, when you watched it again?
Well, I've like the scenes where the alien's running along the ceiling in the tunnels, I always thought looked really dodgy, even on VHS. But yeah, on Blu-ray it really stands out. I don't think they're CGI effects though. I think they are puppet effects, miniature puppet effects that have been superimposed. Because I think I recall in the documentary them saying the only CGI effect is where the alien's skull cracks after being doused in cold water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it did look. I mean, those effects are diabolically awful, I think.
Because there's one where the little alien comes out of the cow, the dead cow, and then runs across the floor, and that looked like CGI. But yeah, I mean, it
could have been. Yeah.
However they did it, it just was done really badly. I don't know if the the budget for Alien 3 was much smaller than the others, but it didn't really work. But I mean, I take it, Joseph and Nathan, obviously you've seen Alien 3. Have you seen it recently?
I've not seen it at all.
Have you not? Okay.
No, I've only seen 1 and 2.
Right. Okay.
No, I've seen it not too long ago. I mean, it might have been like a year or two, but I agree with Eric. I like the film a lot, but a lot of the special effects are kind of iffy. I mean, some of them are really good, but a lot of the scenes, the quicker scenes, are you can tell they just kind of green screened it or CGI or whatever. I haven't seen it on Blu-ray, so I imagine it's probably a little worse with all that detail showing.
Yeah.
The director's cut is really good, though. It adds an awful amount, I think, to the theatrical version.
Yeah, I watched the director's cut. I mean, it's about 2.5 hours long, isn't it? So it's going to be long. But and also it cuts out the scene at the end with the chest burster, doesn't it?
Yes.
Which must have been CGI again. Oh, whatever, But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I haven't seen the fourth one since the cinema release back. God, that must be coming.
1997. Yeah, 15 years.
15 years ago. So, it'd be interesting to watch that again. But that was very CGI, wasn't it? Very CGI heavy, I think, for the fourth one. So, but yeah, so that's our kind of recently seen. I guess, shall we go on to our top 3 death scenes for killers? I think. Yeah. So, Eric, do you want to kick off? And what we do is we perhaps say what the film is to start off with, so people, know to either listen or not, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, my number 3 is Deep Red. So if you haven't seen Deep Red, I urge you not to listen, because part of the fun of Deep Red is the mystery element. But what happens towards the end, what happens at the very end is that the killer gets they're giving away her gender, necklace caught in the mechanics of an elevator. And as the elevator then grinds into action, the necklace digs into her neck and decapitates her. The blood not looking terribly realistic, having that same melted crayon texture of the blood effects in Dawn of the Dead, but it's still a pretty nifty end to what is my favourite giallo, if not one of my favourite films of all time. And I also love the way that the killer's identity is revealed towards the end. I know it's nothing to do with the death scene, but and we discussed this before on our Deep Red episode, which is in our archive somewhere. I didn't spot the major clue to the killer's identity when I watched Deep Red for the first time. So I was completely blown away by the revelation at the end. I thought it was really clever. And the way she's finally offed at the end is pretty spectacular.
And it's not a cheat either, is it, the reveal?
No, because if you go back and watch it, basically you have to be looking in the right part of the screen to pick up the clue very early in the film. And if you go back and watch it, it's there. It's very brief, but it's there. That's what I really like about it. But I know that, Joseph, you spotted it first time you saw it.
Yes, I saw it the minute it was on screen. I actually went back and I was like, wait a minute, is that what I think it is? And I was like, it is. And I was like, what is going on here? And then it was kind of... But it is a neat little trick they pull.
But it's kind of... Yeah, it's a very typical Argento kind of... sort of cruel end for a killer, isn't it? But I was trying to think, because he's a bit of a magpie, isn't he? Because he takes things from other films, but to some degree. But I don't remember seeing that happen to any other killer before or since, really.
Death by Necklace, no.
Well,
no, he kind of does it again in Trauma, his later giallo from the 90s, with that device the killer has for decapitating people, which is basically a wire hoop that tightens.
Yeah, that's one I need to go back and watch again, Trauma, because again, I think it was kind of a middling, film for Argento, isn't it? But not probably looks a lot better now compared to some of his more recent films, I should think.
Oh yeah,
yes. Well, thank you, Eric. Nathan, do you want to tell us what your number 3 is?
My number 3 is from the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel that there is. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation.
Oh, Nathan.
This movie is in my top 20 of all time. That's how much I love it.
Yes, that was The Last Slumber Party.
Yeah.
And?
Exactly.
I think that it is an amazing film, but I love the end scene with Matthew McConaughey's character Vilmer is chasing Renee Zellweger along with Leatherface, and there is a airplane, like a small airplane flying around outdoors, and it's so random that it swoops down and just the propeller hits him in the face. But you never really know anything about it, like, why, was it just a freak accident that just happened to help out Renee's character? Who knows?
I must admit, it's not a film that I've returned to after seeing it many moons ago.
No, me neither. No.
See, I've seen it probably like at least 20 times.
Really?
Maybe more, yeah. I guess I'll just have to pick it. Then y'all can rewatch it.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we could... do you reckon you'd get Renée Zellweger doing...
I think I could get her and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, get them on the show. I'm sure they'd be delighted to go back to that film. But having said that, he's in... what?
No, it reminds me of all that controversy when it was actually released. They tried to get it blocked from being released.
Was it both of them, or just her?
Yeah, both of them. But I think it was more or less their agents were like, "Oh, we don't want that, showing on your resume." So I remember when they actually released the film, there was all this controversy about one or the other was trying to get it blocked. It might have been both, but it just kind of reminded me of that.
Well, I could tell Matthew McConaughey, I saw him in Magic Mike, so, he could talk about one of his first movies.
Exactly. There's no shame, is there, in being in a bad horror movie. Or a good one, even. So, well, thank you for that, Nathan. Joseph, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is from Friday the 13th, Part 4.
Never seen it.
And it's... well, I guess I won't say anything. Actually, it's the... no, I mean, pretty much anyone has seen this film. But if you haven't, skip ahead. It is Jason's brain pan slide on the machete, where, he basically is fighting off... Or Corey Feldman is trying to fight him off, and then he ends up sliding, face down on the machete, and it goes through his, eye, and... That's pretty much how they actually killed Jason, because as you know, he doesn't come back until the 6th film, and by then he's a zombie. So a lot of people might think, no, that's a cheat because Jason's not dead. Well, actually, he is dead. He comes back to life.
Well, he's technically not dead because his arm begins to twitch then, and Corey Feldman picks up the machete and starts hitting him again.
Well, I was getting to that.
Oh, sorry. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically the whole scene where the thing goes through his eye and then he gets chopped up. I've always thought it was a good end because he spent four films just chopping people to bits with a machete. So he should get carved up as well.
Good old Corey Feldman.
Yes. And didn't because the only thing, because when it got released in the UK, it was got that pretty much all of that got cut out. There was you didn't see Jason's face slide down the machete, which I can't remember. I have seen it obviously because it's uncut now. Well, as uncut as it has been in the States. But it looks a little bit hokey now, doesn't it? I mean, it's a great end, but it's that kind of like his eyebrow twitches a bit, doesn't it, as it goes down. But that was a good choice. Thank you, Joseph. Anything else you want to say about that film, or the Jason's demise?
Well, actually, I love the movie, but it's probably actually of the first 7 or 8. It's probably one of my least favorites. I mean, it's definitely better than Part 8, and I find it to be better than Part 7, and Part 3, but 1, 2, 5, and 6 I actually like more than Part 4. But I still love Part 4.
Well, wasn't it? Because it was meant to be like Friday the 13th Part 4. That it was meant to be literally the final chapter, wasn't it? And
but box office returns saw it differently.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because that brought us the brilliant Part 5.
Yes. Well. Yes, we've already talked about our... What? No, I'm not going to go there again. I won't go there again, but we shall save that up for the Part 5 episode. But next we've got to get to Dana, haven't we? Dana and Friday the 13th Disco. So, that's something that will be coming up shortly in one show, I imagine.
It'll be so grotesque, it'll be almost inhuman.
Exactly. So, well, no, thank you very much, Joseph. Just my number 3, I think, is going to be the demise of the killer in Toby Hooper's The Funhouse from 1981. And again, if you haven't seen the film, then skip ahead. But it's not really The Funhouse isn't really a whodunit. Because it's pretty obvious who the killer is, although the killer's masked throughout. You don't find out that that they are kind of like this albino kind of sideshow freak, and he kind of gets basically chewed up by machinery, doesn't it? It's basically gets eaten by the funhouse itself, which I thought was a really nice, well, not nice for him, obviously, but a nice end for for the killer, basically to be ground by these 2 huge cogs that twist underneath, and The Funhouse is a film that I really like, and I know it has its detractors, but I thought it was kind of. It kind of almost like a throwback, just like lots of the film itself, but a throwback to Universal films of the 1930s, and the way the killer died, I just thought was very fitting. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, guys?
I think it's an excellent choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the movie. I think it's very underrated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think it is very underrated, and it's going to be, again, it has got, a Blu-ray release in the UK, and it's going to be getting a Blu-ray release from Screen Factory in the States, isn't it? Fairly soon.
Mm-hmm. The UK one, though, has a Justin commentary on it, though.
It does, yes, which the American one won't have, unfortunately, but it will have Toby Hooper commentary on the American one. And actually, you might be able to answer this for me, Eric, or actually any of you might know the answer to this, but obviously the new Halloween 2 Blu-ray and the Terror Train Blu-ray, which is coming in September and October respectively, I think, because it was the Blu-ray was kind of region locked to the States, but they're doing it as a Blu-ray and DVD combo. Have you any idea, Eric or Nathan and Joseph, if that means that it's just going to be the extras are going to be on the DVD, or is it going to be how do they usually work, those kind of DVD combos?
They're usually identical, because I got the dual pack of Dawn of the Drip Blood, and the DVD is exactly the same as the Blu-ray.
Oh, is it? Okay, well that's good then, isn't it? So
yeah.
So okay, well that's because it wasn't like that, I'm sure, when the first checked. So they must have changed, switched up, because they probably realised there's probably quite a lot of interest from abroad. So anyway, just an aside, but that means I may not have to go and buy spend huge amounts of money on a Region 3 Blu-ray player.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going the same route as well, but thanks to Scream Factory.
Yes. Well. Yeah, well, anyway, that's just a little aside. But who went first last time? Was it you, Eric?
Me. It was me, yeah.
So what's your... do we want... I guess we do, don't we?
We do.
Yes.
Okay, you need to get Snowflake trained to flush the toilet when he comes back from his little adventure at the vets.
Indeed, yes.
My number 2, it's not that spoilerific really, because it's The Burning, and you know from the outset, you're told who the killer is. So the only spoiler here is how he is killed off. What I like about this is just it's super gooey, it's Tom Savini effects, and what happens with Cropsey at the end is he's not killed once or twice but 3 times, because first of all he gets a pair of shears stuck into his back. That doesn't stop him. Then he gets an axe in the head, which kind of stops him. Well, it does stop him in fairness, but then just to finish things off, they point a flamethrower in his direction just to to make him an even bigger fucking Big Mac overdone. So yeah, that's why number 2 is Cropsey in The Burning.
Yes, no, it's a good choice, isn't it? It's kind of poetic justice, isn't it?
Because the effects there are quite good. I mean, I've never thought the makeup effect on Cropsey looked that elaborate. I mean, I don't know if it's how realistic it is, but it just looks kind of thrown together in 5 minutes. But the other effects in the film, I think, are great.
What are your thoughts on that, Nathan?
Oh, I think it's a really good choice. I like the fact that, Cropsey was killing because he was burned, and at the end, it's kind of fitting that they burn him again.
Yeah, no, that would definitely. And Joseph?
Yeah, it's a very good death scene, very elaborate. My only problem is that I would have felt more sympathy with Cropsey if he'd actually went after the people responsible. I mean, I know I know Todd was one of them, but I don't know. It just seems like he killed more people that had nothing to do with it. So he got what he got what was coming to him in the end.
Glazer was asking to be killed, surely.
Oh yeah, well yeah, he deserved it anyway, but still.
Yeah. Well, I really like the Cropsey makeup. I think it does look like a kind of a proper, not proper burn victim, but somebody, it has that kind of nightmarish kind of feel to it and a look to it, and that kind of like. But I think it was quite rushed. But that's a good choice. So thank you, Erik. And who wants?
These ain't lubricated rubbers. Sorry, that's right in there.
I asked for lubricated rubbers.
Who's next? I can't remember.
It's Nathan.
Nathan. Well, here's a cat for you. Okay, Nathan.
He doesn't care if he's wasting water. He likes to push the handle and watch the water go down.
See, I was harmonizing.
Wow. We should release that as a single.
I think we should.
The Barbershop Quartet, the Hysteria Quartet.
Exactly.
We were sailing along on Moonlight Bay. Go ahead.
Simpsons here.
Oh, maybe we won't be releasing anything. Mine
is probably a one that people haven't seen. That many people have seen, so you might want to skip ahead if you haven't seen this movie, because I am going to spoil who the killer is in the original Friday the 13th. I'm so sorry.
Well, I almost sucked into the microphone there.
God, really?
That's what I was trying to do.
Well, that could have.
It's a great scene. Alice and Mrs. Voorhees are fighting it out all over the camp, and it gets to the point where you get kind of annoyed with Alice because she keeps getting her hand, but then she runs away. And then at the end, finally in fantastic slow motion, she takes the machete and just decapitates Mrs. Voorhees with one swing. So I think that was a very excellent death scene, and it was a very fitting in for one of my favorite horror movie mothers.
Yes, poor Mrs. Voorhees.
I did feel bad for her because I don't think she was necessarily evil. I think she was just insane. That's all.
Mm-hmm. But it was a real. It must have been amazing in the cinema, wasn't it, to see that?
Oh yeah.
Because but the trouble is, it's like all the subsequent. Whenever I watch it again now, it's almost looking at the technical aspects of it, and the when you watch, you can see the toothpicks that hold the head in place, can't you? When it's it goes. And also the hand, the kind of the hairy knuckled hand that comes up,
and the head breaks off in the wrong way. Like the machete is swung from the right, and the head sort of slices open from the left. If you know what I mean, it's hard to explain, but it looks
How would you know, Erik, what that should look like?
Well, if you cut into something, if you swing the machete from the right,
yes.
Calling the police.
The head isn't going to fall over
police,
that way.
Erik. Yeah.
You're going to jail.
So anytime I've chopped off someone's head, it hasn't looked like that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, you on I shall do 911. Be like Sydney and Scream and do it on Skype or whatever she was using back then. The other thing was, I always remember, and I know if it's I can't remember. Maybe somebody told me this before I saw it, but they said that Mrs. Voorhees or the hand did flick the V. And
I can see what they mean. It does look like that.
It does look like that a bit, doesn't it? And maybe it's because it's cropped or something like that. But I always remember thinking that it was very kind of a nice touch with a decapitated someone having their head chopped off and managed to flick the V, which has been a nice little comic touch. But I think it's unintentional, wasn't it?
What does that mean?
It's kind of like it's
flipping the bird. Is that what you call it?
Well, not it's.
Oh.
Well, it's
giving
different.
the middle finger.
Yeah, but it's different.
Two fingers.
There's two fingers. Do you not?
Oh, that's crazy because over here that means peace.
Well, that's round the other way.
The other way, though.
Oh.
So, Erik, how would you take two fingers in Ireland?
with great pleasure. No, with great offence.
Okay. Yes. But depending which way they were turned.
Yeah. If the
really, that's what matters.
If the nails are facing the person, it's peace. If they're facing away, it's
no, the other way. Oh, hold on. If the nails are facing them, it's no. If the nails are facing them, that's piss off, isn't it? No.
Oh, no, if they're facing the person who's doing it, sorry. It's
Yes.
peace. Yeah.
That's right.
If they're
Yeah.
faced away from the person doing it, it's go away is what it means.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's like my auntie. Apparently, there's a story that she was driving and she used to, if people annoyed her, she put her hand up through the sunroof and flipped the bird at them, and she didn't realise that it meant fuck off. She just thought it was. She just thought it was a kind of like just a
friendly
gesture.
greeting.
Yeah, friendly gesture. But So anyway, enough of fingers. But no, thank you, Nathan. That was a great choice. And hopefully, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th, then what are you doing listening to this? But if you haven't, watch it straight away. So, Joseph, a little bit of pussy for you.
My number 2 is from Just Before Dawn. So if you haven't seen that movie, skip ahead. But basically, now I'm going to spoil who the killer is as well as how he dies. Basically, the killer is a mountain man, actually a set of mountain men that are twins. They're a product of like inbreeding or something. But anyway, the last one standing, has a showdown with the final girl. And basically, the way he meets his maker is very unusual. She basically kind of, unleashes her primal self, and tackles him and shoves her whole fist down his throat, and he pretty much dies from choking on her fist. So it's a good fisting scene, I think. But it's a really good death scene, I think. Very unusual.
So what are your thoughts on fisting, Erik, in films?
Well, it works well in context, like in something like Caligula, I think. Incidentally, Toya once had a famous incident with the term fisting. She was on Nevermind the Buzzcocks, which for you, Nathan and Joseph, is a panel show, a quiz, pop music quiz comedy thing that they show on BBC. And
well, I know the Buzzcocks. There's also a group called the Buzzcocks.
Yes, yeah. But Mark Lamar was the presenter, and he was giving some grief to Toya. So Toya raised her fist to him and said, "I'm going to fist you," meaning what she meant was she was going to punch him. Yeah. But of course, everyone laughed and said, "Gee, oh Toya, you're so dirty."
Yes. Oh, poor Toya.
Yeah.
Was that the last time she was on television?
No, because she's been on Celebrity Cash in the Attic.
She? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Next stop, the Hollywood Bowl. Hey.
Yeah. She will, and you'll be sorry.
They do need a cleaner right here. So...
Stop laughing at him, you're just encouraging him.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It never ends. It never ends.
Never ends. But, no... Well,
40 episodes in, and we're still doing this.
Gosh, I know.
Toya versus Susie and fisting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about a subgenre that is repetitious by nature, aren't we? So we are doing it justice, I think.
Yes.
But Nathan, what are your thoughts on the demise of the killer and Just Before Dawn?
I think it is very, very excellent choice, which I think I've said about everybody's choices so far. But I agree with all of them, so I guess, it makes sense that I would say that. I think that it's a very, Connie was being crushed at the end of that movie. He had her in a bear hug. There was not much else she could have done. So, she has that survival instinct.
And poor Greg Henry, he's just so useless in that scene.
Well, he did get his stomach sliced open.
Yeah,
that probably hurt.
You're supposed to, take care of your women's, not sit back and cry.
Women?
But she really just goes all out. You never heard that expression? I take care of my
here's the thing. He believes in equality, no sexism. So he was like, she can save herself just as easily as I can save myself.
Exactly. Which, because
that's a definite Greg Henry, thing to think.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for that, Joseph. Sorry, were you going to...
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a cat too. Yes. Well, my big number 2 is the death scene of the killer from The Prowler, another 1981 film. And it's kind of, again, another Tom Savini film. And of course, as we know, Tom Savini was the man when it came to sort of mayhem and latex and in the early 1980s. And if you haven't seen The Prowler, then, stop listening now. I won't give away the identity, apart from to say the final girl gets into a tussle with the killer in The Prowler. And it's that classic kind of scene or classic thing where they're fighting over a shotgun, and the shotgun happens to go under the chin of the killer, and presumably he accidentally presses the trigger, or she presses it, and his head explodes in the kind of Scanner-esque kind of shower of gore. And I just thought it was a kind of a very fitting end to, a killer. And I did wonder if they, basically there's no real coming back from having a head blown off with a shotgun. And I'd wondered if they'd ever done that to Jason, how they would have got away with bringing him back. But obviously they didn't have to worry about that. So yes.
Well, they did blow Jason up in the 9th film, and he inexplicably came back.
Yes. But he came back. Yeah.
Yes, but that one is horrible.
Yeah, we'll forget that one.
That's true.
Yes. But
well, they did chop off Michael Myers' head in H2O, and then bring him back for the sequel.
But it wasn't him, was it? It was a
no, yeah, but I mean, they can explain away. It wasn't Jason. It was just somebody dressed up like him.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Michael Myers did have both of his eyeballs shot out in part 2, but he can see very well in the sequels.
Yeah. Yes,
not to mention he was blown up in part 2.
Yes, and sort of burned horribly, doesn't he? Because when you actually see his face in the sequels, he's got like a little bit of latex? It's a bit like Dr. Loomis has like a little wrinkle, doesn't he? A brown wrinkle on his face.
He's got a rash. He's like me. He's got poison oak.
Yes,
it's like a 0.0001 degree burn he has.
Yeah. Which is great, isn't it? But so any thoughts on The Prowler?
Oh, it's awesome.
That is a good death scene.
And yes,
it kind of rivals the shotgun to the head scene in Maniac, I think.
I think it's better than that one, isn't it? In some ways, because it's the one in Maniac is kind of over so quickly, or I think they kind of with this, I think they kind of they slow it down, don't they? I mean, it still doesn't look especially realistic, but it's just kind of I don't think it's as good as the exploding head in Scanners. But yes, I thought it's a nice fitting end to The Killer and The Prowler. So those were our number 2s. But Erik, do you want to give us your big one?
Okay, here comes my big one. Are you ready?
We are.
It's from a film you just mentioned, actually, Maniac. So again, tune out if you haven't seen Maniac. And this is a bit of a cheat, actually, because at the end of Maniac, we see the killer isn't really dead. And also, the scene I'm about to describe is actually a dream sequence rather than anything else. So it's where Joe Spinell is lying in bed, and the mannequins that adorn his apartment seem to come to life and then sort of tear him limb from limb in a manner kind of like Day of the Dead. I just thought it was a nice kind of surreal and gory moment to end the film on, because it's sort of gritty and downbeat for the most part. And again, it's Tom Savini. I mean, we keep coming back to Tom Savini. This is the second one in my list anyway, after The Burning. So he certainly was the godfather of gore back in the day.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I wonder, do you think they will go? I wonder how kind of what's the word for it? True to the original, the remake's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope Platinum Dunes have nothing to do with it. But it's not Eli Roth. Elijah Wood is the Joe Spinell character. Yeah, he's
definitely a bit not as greasy.
No, I was thinking he's a bit pretty boy and that for the role, I think. Yeah.
It was interesting. I was reading an interview with Caroline Munro in the latest Dark Side magazine, and she explained something I never knew before about Maniac, and it said the reason that she, because there's a whole thing about why would someone as beautiful as Caroline Munro be attracted to Joe Spinell, but apparently there was whole sections of the film that were cut out or lost, where it turns out that she's actually confused about her sexuality, and she actually is perhaps a lesbian and on the verge of coming out, and she befriends him. So it's not actually necessarily meant to be. I think in his head it's kind of like a romantic kind of interlude, but in her head she just saw him as a friend.
But even if I was a lesbian now, I probably still wouldn't go near Joe Spinell, I have to say.
No.
Especially not now.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's true, yes.
Inappropriate.
Too soon?
Too soon. Give it another 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's this is kind of shaping up to be another. It's not. Hopefully, this won't be quite as demented as the Bloody Moon episode, but apparently that went down quite well.
We're
didn't
close. It? We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, so somebody mentioned on Facebook it was one of our best episodes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I did see that on Facebook.
Yes. Yes. Well, any other thoughts on the end of Maniac?
I think that it would have been more fitting if they would have played Going to the Showdown during that final showdown.
That would have been good.
Showdown.
Yes. Yes. Well, that'd be quite a fun one to do, Maniac, won't it, at some point? But no, thank you, Eric. And
It was Kelly Briers McQueen who said it was one of the best episodes, and Graham Reich said bar none the best episode ever. So thank you, Graham and Kelly.
And Kelly.
Yes. So it does. Yeah, this time actually, we've since I've improved my internet connection. I think we've touched wood. We've been okay, haven't we? Sound wise. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure we will reach those dizzy depths again at some point if we haven't already this episode. So so thank you, Eric, for your number one. Who's next? Is it Nathan?
I believe it's me.
Yes. What's your number one?
My number one is from The Final Terror. And it's not a gory death scene, and I don't even know. I mean, I think it's just a combination of things that make this one of my favorites. You've got the group of campers. They think they know who the killer is, and they got him, down, and they're beating him, and his mother is actually the killer, and she starts running towards them and, trips up this wire, and this trap they had set up swings down and just impales her. And she's hanging on the trap and swinging back and forth. And it's just dead silence as the, survivors are just kind of in shock, watching her swing back and forth on this trap that they had set up. I think it's played very well, their surprise, at what they've just witnessed. I love that as an ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very, very inventive ending, wasn't it?
I agree.
Yeah, and also kind of similar to The Killers, similar to Don't Go in the Woods, ish.
I think the movies, they both display the forest as a very scary place.
Well, maybe The Final Terror does.
You've broken poor Nathan's heart.
Oh, not
y'all are
yet.
so mean to me.
No. Well, you might be surprised by what I think about the film.
Okay. Now I'm excited again.
Yeah, okay. So, anything else? More thoughts on that, Eric or Joseph?
I know. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, this is one we've discussed recently, not that long ago.
Yeah, that's
maybe
right.
A couple of months back, yeah. I do. I love The Final Terror. It was one that I was kind of dismissive of for a long time, but watching it again for our show a few months back, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I like the ending as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I had a strange little kind of remix moment going on there. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. But yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, Nathan. Joseph, what's your number one?
Well, my number one is from Hell Night, and I will be spoiling it. But basically, there's this, these people go to spend the night in this Garth Manor, which is this huge mansion that's surrounded by an iron fence, and it's as part of a sorority, initiation thing, one of those deals. But basically, Linda Blair gets chased around the manor and the grounds, pretty much through the whole film. And at the end, she finally does battle with the killer, and he ends up being impaled on that iron fence, and the way he's just hanging there after it's all over with. I just think it's a very neat. It's a very haunting shot for some reason. Just the way his body's just lumped over and those things are sticking out of his chest and he's hovering above the ground. I've always loved that ending. I think it's like a punch. It's like whap. It's like a good way to take out the killer, I think.
Yeah, no, good choice. Good choice. What are your thoughts on that, Nathan?
I think it's a great choice as well. I think I like the the scene, where she's getting out of the car, and walking away, and you can still see him hanging in the background. I think that's was a good choice by the filmmakers.
Not to mention they kind of accentuate her dirty pillows a little bit too.
Her dirty pillows are enormous in that film.
Yeah, they are.
She could rest her chin on them, couldn't she?
Rest something else on there too.
Oh, Joseph.
You're so perverted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about Magic Mike's dick, but I can't talk about her.
I did not say anything about his dick. I said
I don't.
it didn't show it.
Well, that's something about it.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Is his name really Magic Mike?
No, that's just his stage name. His name's like Michael something in the movie.
Did they have All the Way Jay there as well? Did he turn up?
Who?
All the Way Jay?
All the Way Jay from Cum Bum?
He wasn't in the film.
I don't know who that is.
Neither do I.
But we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, All the Way Jay from Cum Bum.
Yeah.
What's Cum Bum?
What do you mean?
I know, this is ringing a bell, but not loud enough that I can remember.
It's the road.
It's
the town or something, wasn't it?
It was a town that I went to in India called Cum Bum.
Oh, yes.
And then, but we also somehow came onto that, not quite literally, but after that time, we stumbled across that strip show in the pub, and it was All the Way Jay was the stripper. So I can't believe you don't remember that, Erik.
He does exactly what he says on the tin. Oh, you know me and my goldfish memory these days.
Yes. Okay. Well, anyway. Well, yeah, I forgot which film we were talking about. Hell Night.
Hell Night. Yes.
Hell Night is great film and a great end. And also, it was kind of in some ways it was quite restrained, wasn't it? It was quite poetic end to that film. Mm-hmm. And they even didn't have an ending where the killer's fingers twitch or anything like that, which is kind of what you would have thought they would normally do. But yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Joseph. My number one is from Dario Argento. So another giallo is his 1982 giallo Tenebrae. And again, if you haven't seen this film, you don't want to know the identity of the killer if you haven't seen it, because that's part of the joy in this, in the same way as with Deep Red. But without actually saying who the killer is, it's kind of this grand Guignol ending where the killer kills themselves or appears to kill themselves by cutting their throat with a switchblade, and then so they think the killer has killed themselves, and that there's the Dario Argento's character and the cop there in this house where the killer has previously axed off a woman's arm, which again, if you've not seen the film, is kind of one of probably the most celebrated gore shots in all of horror movie cinema, where the woman's arm sprays this huge arterial spray.
Yeah, I'd actually picked that scene in an earlier death scene episode, our top 3.
That's right, and it's with the actual ending is the killer pretends to kill themselves, and then they realise that the cop goes back in and finds the killer's body missing, and then there's a great shot where the cop bends down and behind him is the killer, which I think wasn't that shot they reused that shot in Stage Fright, I seem to remember.
And they reuse it in Raising Cain, which I was watching during the week.
That's right, yeah. But then essentially another nod back to a different film, which is Bird of a Crystal Plumage, where which takes the initial murder, which kind of or attack takes place in an art gallery. And in this, the killer with this kind of, do you remember Mousetrap, that old game where everything, things start to fall, and it goes in a kind of sequence, and it's a bit like that.
Rube Goldberg-ish.
Yes, well, it kind of there's this kind of bizarre bit of art which is really spiky, which is a very dangerous kind of bit of art to have. It's not the kind of thing you'd have if you had children, unless you wanted to kill them, which some people probably do, but the art falls over, and then basically when Dario Argento comes in, she dislodges it, and the killer, who was about to kill her, gets this huge shard of spiky bit of art through his abdomen and is pinned to the wall. And there's a great shot where he's trying to pull it out of him, but he can't because his hand's too slick with blood. And it's just the whole thing. The way it's done is really kind of masterful. It's a great sequence. So if you haven't seen Tenebrae, then you definitely should watch that. So what do you think, guys? I mean, presumably that's all one you quite like.
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
You have, you liar.
No, it is a good scene, I think. That's a very gory film. It's one of Argento's more bloodier films.
Yeah. which this is why it got banned on video in the UK. That's, you know, but it played at cinema here, but I don't know whether it was probably cut, you know, a bit. But yeah, any thoughts on that, Nathan?
I think it's an excellent choice.
I'd like to cover Tenebrae if we do another Giallo episode. I think Tenebrae would be a great one to do, wouldn't it?
Was that trick that Argento did of the cop bending down and you see the killer standing behind him? Was that used before Tenebrae? I
was wondering that. I don't know. I would be surprised if it hadn't been used somewhere else.
Yeah.
Didn't they do that in Honeymoon Horror?
They did it in Nightmare. Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. The woman's on the phone and she bends down and he's right behind her.
That's right.
Yes. And that was the year before Tenebrae. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, if you know of any other film that kind of that thing was used in, then let us know, and we'll be coming up a little bit later with details.
Some of those films, Justin, that you saw in the Spanish supermarket probably have lots of scenes of people bending down with somebody standing behind them.
I'm sure they do. But yes, well, we'll gloss over that one, shall we, Erik?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Might be for the best.
But you're off to Spain soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to be spending most of the time in the supermarkets.
Are you?
Yeah. Since they're such a treasure trove of movies.
Yes. Yeah. Well, tell us what you come back with.
Well, I hope to come back with some Bonka coffee and some arse sugar.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, I shall look out for that because I'm off to Spain in about 3 weeks' time.
And bimbo
You're
bread.
always off to Spain, both of you.
Yeah.
I know. We live a life of Riley, don't we, Erik?
I think y'all live like a lap of luxury. I picture y'all like on cruise liners and stuff, you know, decked out and tuxedos and all this.
If only you knew the reality, Rachel. This is myself and Justin's reward for having to live in rain-soaked misery for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
See, I just have the image of y'all, you know, jet-setting amongst the rich and famous, so I'd rather just retain that image.
Okay, well, it's wrong, but you can retain it if you want.
Yes. Yes, well, I'll be sipping J&B whiskey alongside. I don't know who'd be famous. Who would I don't know. Toya,
Jess Franco.
Jess Franco. Yes, but yeah. Well, that was our top three. And if we are, you know, if we're talking about madness and things going wrong, then I think it's about time we go on to our feature presentation. And Nathan's going to talk us in after this trailer for Don't Go in the Woods Alone.
Don't go in the woods. Something's out there. Something evil. Something so terrifying only screams can describe it. Hunters become the hunted. Every camper is fair game. When a walking nightmare turns a lush green forest crimson red with the fresh blood of each new victim. It started as a carefree weekend camping trip, but soon turned into an orgy of unrelenting horror. You can run. It will catch you. You can hide. It will find you. After that, you won't see the forest for the screams. Don't go in the woods. It's not just a warning. It's the only way to stay alive.
Take it away, Nathan.
Yes. Well, Don't Go in the Woods concerns 4 campers, Craig, Peter, Joni, and Ingrid, going on a leisurely weekend camping trip and running afoul of a psychotic mountain man who is hacking up just about everybody that's in these woods. You know, I mean, he's got a huge amount of victims at his disposal. I'm a huge fan of Don't Go in the Woods. I don't even know how many times I've watched it. Probably too many to count. Actually, a funny story. At the video store where I grew up, the lady who owned it said when she went out of business, she said, "Do you realize you're the only person in like the past 10 years that's rented this movie?" And she actually gave it to me for free because I was the only one that ever rented it. But, you know, I'm not go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's it must be an indication of something.
Well, I think it's just the lack of imagination of people that lived in Chatsworth, Georgia. You know, unless it was about redneck wagon trains, then, you know, we, you know, don't have Going back to Don't Go in the Woods, I just want to say that, it's got a huge body count, so you can't say it doesn't have that. It's got memorable performances by Dick and Cherry and Dr. Maggie and, that lovable, psychotic mountain man.
He is lovable.
Yes, he's a friendly beast who lurks about. I think my favorite scenes are obviously, Dick and Cherry, because I picked it just recently. I picked their dialogue exchange. I mean, this is the weirdest couple. I don't know why they don't seem to fit as a couple. And, I've heard some very not nice remarks about the poor actress that plays Cherry. I've never said anything bad about her myself, but when I watched this movie with Wes, the scene with Dick and Cherry starts out, like she's lying on top of him, kissing him. And when she stands up, Wes goes, "Oh God, I thought that was the man on top." So, that was a very mean remark, but, I can't say anything mean, so I won't go any further than that. There's just so much about this movie that's awesome. Of course, the ending theme is awesome, which I'm sure we'll play out on, right, Justin?
We will. And do you want a little bit of, would you like a little bit of Dick and Cherry?
Yes, I want some Dick and Cherry.
Dick, it's just not perfect.
Oh, baby, we'll work it out. Come here, baby. Come here. Cherry, you're the most beautiful thing that ever came into my life.
Oh, Dick. It's Dick. It's just that my head isn't in the right place, that's all.
Oh, baby, don't worry about it. It's all right.
Oh, my God! What is that?
I don't know, baby. It's probably just a bear or something.
Something's out there.
Did you hear Erik? Whoa, it's a bear.
Well, she's right. It is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she's got a point there. I love, in that scene where, he leaves and she's trying to close the doors.
That's so funny.
She keeps trying to pull the doors closed, and they're not, they're not lined up the way they should be when she's closing these van doors. You have to see it to know what I'm talking about. But, I also have to say, though, I felt bad for the painter. It looked like she was just finishing up her painting when the killer snuck up.
I mean, she was just in the middle of the woods, and there was no view, was there?
No, she was painting a view, but there was no view. It was just woods around her.
Her painting wasn't the best either. It was kind of
You didn't think so?
It was a few splashes of green, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
did
she
like
said.
her mirrored shades were excellent, though.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go to you, Erik. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is another one. I mean, not wanting to repeat myself, but this is one that I didn't like. But I bought the Code Red DVD when it came out, I suppose maybe about 5 years ago, and I really do enjoy it now. I mean, it has a really fractured storyline, as you say. It feels like maybe 5 or 6 films stitched together. You have the main plot of the 4 campers, but then you interspersed all these scenes of characters that just wander in and out really, really quickly, and there's no character build up. They just there's one scene actually that's really effective actually, where the 2 campers in the sleeping bags are attacked. Now we don't actually even see them until they're attacked, which is just tells you how much build up there is. But it's quite vicious, and I can see in scenes like that why it was banned in the UK as part of the video nasty scandal in the early 80s. The film's often described as the worst film ever, but there's absolutely no way it is. I mean, people who say that are obviously ones who just live on a diet of Transformers and Dark Knight films, and have never seen a low budget film in their life. Because I mean, we can certainly say, I think all of us, that it's far from the worst film ever. I haven't seen Crazy Fat Ethel 2. I think a film's going to have to go a long way to beat that, for starters, and for all the sort of lack of thespian skills in Don't Go in the Woods Alone. At least it's 100 times better, and it's Oscar worthy in comparison to Crazy Fat Ethel 2. I'm sorry, Nathan, but I think there is plenty of effective horror scenes. I know that for the most part we kind of laugh along with Don't Go in the Woods Alone because it's kind of cheesy, but I mean, the scene where Joni is strung up in the sleeping bag and she can sort of see the killer coming along through a little hole in the sleeping bag, is quite effective and quite suspenseful, I thought. And I thought her murder scene in the cabin later in the film was quite vicious. Again, another reason why possibly it was, you know, banned as a video nasty, because it's quite extreme. I mean, the effects themselves are quite primitive, but effective all the same. The only downside, I suppose, for me for the film is that I think the second half of the film has a much slower pace, I thought. Mm-hmm. Once Peter and Ingrid escape from the woods and go back to the police station, from there on, I don't think it has the verve of the first half of the film. I think there's a bit too much maybe wandering around by the sheriff and by Peter. But on the whole, I think it is a good, fun film. Not one that I watch, you know, on a regular basis, but certainly one I would recommend. And I would tell people to ignore the worst film ever tagline it's often labelled with, and, you know, give it a try. It's really fun.
Thank you, Eric. And I have to say, you brought up a really good point. I love the scene where Joni is strung up in the sleeping bag and sees the killer in the distance. I think what makes that scene, you know, kind of creepy and tense is the fact that, you know, her friend has strung her up in that sleeping bag and she's hanging from a tree limb. And, you know, when she starts screaming, there's somebody here, like she sees somebody off in the distance, like coming towards them, like he doesn't believe her. He thinks she's just trying to trick him into letting her down. So I think that works really well in that way, you know, I have to say. What about you, Justin?
Well, yeah, surprisingly, I kind of, you know, when I first saw it, I was kind of probably, well, I know I was kind of on a diet of Friday the 13th and Halloween sequels and, you know, slightly more accomplished sort of slash movies. And I think when I first saw it, I did really I thought it was awful and mind-numbingly dull. But this time, again, now I've kind of got a newfound appreciation for it because viewing it as a comedy, which I think, you know, I think we're safe. Do we agree that it was shot as a comedy? Do you think?
I think not really, but I'll get. I think
certain sections were like the guy in the wheelchair and maybe Dick and Cherry, but I think on the most part it was shot as straight ahead horror. I think. Yeah, it's the impression I get. Yeah, it's kind of. It seems from what I can tell, the you know, possibly in retrospect that the director was saying it was kind of meant to be a comedy because it was so bad. But I don't know. I mean, viewing it as a comedy more than a horror film, because I mean, it doesn't. Apart from a few sections, which I think, you know, you've touched on most of them already. It doesn't really work as a horror film. I mean, if you go into it expecting to be scared, you're not going to be scared. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, it is amateur hour really. But having said that, within those constraints, it's and I agree with Erik with the I really enjoyed, had fun with, is probably the best way to describe it, the first half of the film. And I agree that when they get to the hospital, or after the sections when Peter goes back into the woods, it loses its momentum. It doesn't, you know, it loses something, whatever that is, I don't know. But yeah, I was surprised actually how much I enjoyed it this time, and it reminded me very much again of a film we talked about recently, Night of the Demon. So it had similar kind of like non-acting but kind of funny performances, and you know, things like the Dick and Cherry scene were clearly, you know, is obviously, well, presume you would hope that it wasn't meant to be taken too seriously. And I loved the Farrah Fawcett poster on the top of the van. That was a great touch. But it was my understanding it was the director, wasn't it, who dubbed the voice, because I think the whole film was post-dubbed, wasn't it? It was either shot without sound or however, but it was all kind of, everything was post-dubbed, which is something I'm sure we'll get onto. But just some other thoughts on it. I mean, there were sections in it I thought worked really well. I mean, some of the chase scenes, especially the chase scene with Peter running through the woods after he sees the fisherman being killed by the killer. And I thought some of those, you know, for such a low budget film, they were pretty effective actually, some of the shots. And I mean, it's all done relatively simply. I imagine it was kind of with Ingrid and Peter running through the woods, and it's probably shot from a van that's driving along a road by the side, but it just works really well. And of course, I think James Bryan sort of knew that shooting it in out Salt Lake City in Utah, that he had very little money, but having the woods themselves would actually provide great backdrop, and it can't help but look quite spectacular at times, which I think really, really works.
What else was the killer? I thought was quite. He kind of looked. Do you remember Giant Haystacks, Eric?
Yes, I do. Yes,
he was a cross between Giant Haystacks and one of Dexy's Midnight Runners, wasn't he? Which would probably mean nothing for our American cousins. But Giant Haystacks was a wrestler, and he was kind of like a big kind of grizzly kind of looking kind of wrestler, wasn't he? And he's always used to square up back in the 70s with Big Daddy. But that's another wrestler. But so that was.
Wasn't Big Daddy's real name something like Shirley?
Yes, it was, wasn't it? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But mind you, wasn't John Wayne's first name Shirley, wasn't it? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah, something like that rings a bell.
Something like that, wasn't it? Nancy or something. But the music was bizarre. It was kind of like it really did sound like a chimp headbutting a Casio organ. Through some of it, it was kind of thing. I just want to play a little clip here. It was just a kind of bizarre kind of choices of music and where they actually had them. And this is a scene where Doctor, what's the name, Dr.
Maggie.
Maggie, yes, Maggie, and Peter at the hospital. And it's just, I love this inappropriate use of music towards the end.
Don't blame yourself. You did everything you could.
Joni's still out there. I went up and left her.
That's not your responsibility. Not now. Right now you should be in a warm bed. Now look, there's nothing either one of us can do with this thing. You can't rush it. The search has to be planned, and that takes time. And anyway, the only people who should be out there are the ones that are qualified.
The suspense.
Suspense. Why on earth use that bit of music there? It's funny, but it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Maybe it was used as a way of distracting from the line delivery.
Yes, that was.
Now listen, there's nothing either one of us can do.
But yes, that's my my tuppence for the time being. So I don't know if Joseph wants to weigh in.
Well, Don't Go in the Woods is certainly, it's a movie, all right. I think that it, according to some of the background information I have on the film, which I'll get to later, I think it was actually filmed as a serious film, but it just did not turn out that way. I mean, the dubbing is horrendous. I mean, you can tell there was a lot of audio problems. So, I mean, everyone is dubbed, and it just doesn't match. And the way the film basically turned out, it just felt like a really weird Monty Python sketch to the whole film. Like, it's all this strange humor, like the guy in the wheelchair going all the way up the mountain just to get killed and go back down the mountain. I don't know. It's very Monty Python-esque to me. It had that kind of. I don't even know if they intended it to be funny like that, but it turned out that way. But yeah, it's a really terrible film. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's awful. But I think that's why it's so endearing, because it's just so bad. I love the scene where obviously where they stab the guy, and then was it Pete? Yeah, Peter. He's like, I'm sorry. Of course, we've said that before.
Yeah, I'll play the.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
and then the scene where they actually, they dispense of the killer. It just goes on, and it's so hokey looking. It's just funny. But one of the things I also like, I mean, it's not even really about the film, but I'd read a review for the movie a long time ago, and they had pictures on this page of stills from the film. And they had like little captions of them, and under the sheriff, they called it the Goodyear blimp, and I always got a kick out of that. Yeah. But I mean, if you're going to see a film for suspense and terror and well-made gore effects, don't go in the Woods. If you want to see something unintentionally hilarious, yeah, definitely, I would say go for it. So yeah, I liked it a lot for that reason.
Well, do you want to, anything else you want to say about it, Nathan? Because are you surprised by our reaction, or?
I am surprised by your reactions. I am curious, though, as to who was your favorite victim, because you have to admit the variety of victims in this movie are quite colorful and different. Well, so, who's your favorite victim?
Well, mine's a non-victim in so much we haven't spoken about her, but is the girl on roller skates.
Yeah.
Now that is.
What do you do little roller skates out in the woods anyway?
Well, exactly. And she kind of she screams, doesn't she? And there's the sheriff. She kind of roller skates into the sheriff, and then goes off. And then it just has this little comedy thing where I think I saw on the commentary, which is like Erik mentioned about the Code Red DVD package, which is excellent, by the way. So if you've got any interest in the film, that's definitely worth picking up if it's still in print. And he said that she wasn't meant to be killed, but she just falls over, and it's a little comedy thing. But she was my, I don't know, she was almost like she was on day release from Pieces.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. Yeah. I like the way the killer rips people's limbs off, and like Joseph, that reminded me very much of Monty Python, particularly. They did a famous sketch. What's the director? Sam Peckinpah.
Is it a flesh wound?
Yeah,
a flesh wound.
And then the Holy Grail as well. It reminded me of that because it was really phony looking, arm ripping. So I don't know who would be my favorite kill. Probably, do you know who my favorite victim was the wife of Dale. Dale,
oh, yeah.
Dale. it's some woman in like gaudy sunglasses and a big straw hat and this horrendous dress. And actually on the commentary as well, as Justin was saying, he says that he sets up potential victims not by having them smoke pot and have sex, but by them going around in gaudy outfits, and that's what singles them out as victims for the killer.
Well, it's kind of almost quite John Waters-esque, wasn't it? He sort of said, yeah,
completely.
Sort of it was fashion. It was, the killer kills people in bad fashion. Which
so why did Ingrid survive?
Exactly. Yeah.
You didn't like her fashion sense?
Well, it's her. I think she. You know what? I think she looks really like Montgomery from The Kids from Fame, and that's not really a compliment.
I thought she looked like the kid from Happy Days, Ron Howard.
That was on that website you were talking about. They put that on there. They put a picture of her. Yeah, they put a picture of her and Richie Cunningham, and then for Joni, they put a picture of the Karate Kid.
Really? Ralph Macchio.
Yes.
Oh my God. I wouldn't have got that comparison. Yeah. But I also thought that this is a UK reference only. She really looked like Pogo Patterson from Grange Hill, and I'm probably the only person who'll get that reference. But
well, I get that reference, but I doubt Nathan and Joseph would. But yeah, it's Well, it's interesting. I mean, we've got some. We're producing some behind the scenes stuff. But is there anything else? Have you? Sorry, Joseph. You said your favourite victim.
Oh, it would probably have to be Dick or Cherry. Because of the whole scene. I mean, come on out there, you jerk! You come on out, you pencil neck geek.
And how about you, Nathan? Who was your favourite victim?
Oh, I don't know why, but my favorite victim probably is always going to be Cherry. I don't know why. I mean, it's just she's unforgettable with her red.
She is that. Yeah.
Mind you, she could have, got out of that van, couldn't she? It's a shame to see that van go, because it's such a beautiful van. But she could have broken that glass with her nose, couldn't she? And whittled her way out.
I was waiting for somebody to be mean about her. Yeah.
I was going to see if somebody's going to call her the Wicked Witch of the West because somebody said that she could have played that part.
She makes olive oil look like Anna Kournikova.
Cherry.
Yeah. Well, it's just
I kind of regret not giving you the audio clip of Dale's wife getting killed. I kind of wish I'd have done that because do you remember like when she's getting killed, like at first you don't even know what's going on. You just kind of see her crawling and you hear her going,
Neither of us have, neither of us have discussed the campfire scene with the horrible story.
Oh, gosh.
Huh?
And then it ends with him farting.
Do you smell something?
Yeah.
You tell them, you shush them if you want them to smell something.
Well, Erik brought up the other clip that would have been funny to play too, is when they find Craig's body and he's like, Craig! And then makes that weird face, and then Ingrid's like, no.
I love the way she sort of does a little pause. She goes, no. Well,
I've got a little clip here from the campfire scene.
One by one, campers were found with eyes, ears ripped out.
He ripped out their eyes and their ears. Who rips? What kind of killer rips off their ears?
I know.
Reservoir Dogs killer?
Maybe, I don't know.
Did any of you find it odd?
Enthusiast?
Find it odd that like the scenes with Joni when she's like alone running through the forest, like she finds like this paper plate with some weird stuff on it, and licking it. Like you would think she would have been out there for days. She'd been out there for a few hours, and it's like she's starving.
I know.
I love that. That reminded me of a film that we were mentioning in the last podcast, the Uninvited. The one with the mutant cat on the boat, because that happens there as well. So they start going crazy because they haven't eaten for about 3 hours. Now, I can relate to that, but I know that for a normal person, that's not really something that happens.
But what's we thoughts about the killer? Because he has this kind of strange look, doesn't he? He's kind of got this kind of pearl necklace on his face, kind of thing.
A bear with a pearl necklace on his face. Where have I seen that before?
Oh,
well, every Saturday night, I imagine, Erik. Yes. So, but
he's like a pirate almost.
Well, he is, but there's no motive, is there? There's no motive at all.
No, they just kind of trespassed, too close to his cabin, I guess.
But normally, because it would have been because I think we talk about the the background to the movie, but I think just going into that slightly now is that from what I can tell, the whole campfire scene was meant to be something else, was it, or it wasn't? It was something. I think basically they kind of either lost or didn't put in the reason for the killer being there. But yes, it's kind of the only film I know really. Well, I mean, I suppose you got a film like Final Exam where the killer doesn't seem to have a motive, but it seems more careless in this film that they just forgot to put it in or something.
That didn't. I have to say that didn't really cross my mind at all, to be honest.
You just thought he was just a crazy mountain man?
Well, exactly.
Hacking him up. Yeah. I tell you what I thought was really weird is the scene where Peter and Ingrid come across the killer's cabin, and Peter says, "We need food if we're going to make it out of here. If it's his food, I'll still take it." That just sounds weird to me. I don't know. That makes no sense to me at all.
No, it doesn't make any sense, does it, at all? But I like the scene where Peter has to check his pants to see if he shat himself.
Oh yeah, he actually checks.
He actually checks, doesn't he? Because he thinks he's being attacked by, and it's just another hiker, isn't it?
Mm.
And it's weird that it's another example of the bad dubbing. Like the hiker doesn't even stop walking; he's just like, "Hope I didn't scare anybody," and just keeps on walking.
Yeah,
but that does lead to another one of my favorite lines, which is, "Peter, you better bring up the rear."
Yeah.
I like bag a bitch. Say it, bag a bitch.
Is that what he's saying? I couldn't make out what he was saying. Bag a bitch. That's it.
I like Craig's. Peter, we were worried. Jumping off a log like that, you could really get yourself hurt.
It's funny. He's Mr. Safety, but the scene where Joni's alone, they throw some pretty big rocks, like right, really close to her head, to splash in the water, like right next to her.
And he hangs her from a sleeping bag on a tree.
Exactly. Yeah. After all of that, after the health and safety lecture that goes on for about 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's don't go in the woods. I mean, do we want to sort of come back in a moment and then?
No. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Okay. Well, let's take a little break, and we'll be back in 2 Shakes of a Lamb's Tail.
Hi, I'm Elaine Beauty from My Bloody Valentine and The Incubus, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
Peter, that could have been a fatal mistake, jumping off a log. There might have been a snake under there. You get lost or hurt in the wilderness, alone, you've had it. You're dead.
But that's okay, Craig, because we've got you.
All right, and we're back. And I guess now we can discuss some behind-the-scenes information for Don't Go in the Woods. Actually, if you've got that Code Red DVD, there's a ton of behind-the-scenes information about the film. I thought one of the most interesting pieces of information from the DVD was the fact that the actor who played Craig James P. Hayden, for years on the IMDb, it had him dying of a drug overdose, which is not true. He's still alive. And now I looked him up on the IMDb before we did the podcast, and he's not even listed in the credits anymore for Don't Go in the Woods. But,
I noticed that as well, yeah.
I thought that was kind of odd. I thought it's interesting that Mary Gail Artz, who plays Ingrid, went on to become a major casting director. You know, she cast Halloween
the irony.
too. Yeah, that is ironic.
Yeah.
Halloween 2 and other fairly big budget films. I thought that was very interesting. Maybe she realized she was better behind the scenes rather than on camera. I read on the IMDb that the blood was made from red food coloring and barbecue sauce. Now I can't imagine being out in the sun wearing fake blood of red food coloring and barbecue sauce. I don't. I think that's a very odd mixture for fake blood, I have to say.
Well, he says in the commentary as well that a lot of them said it was too spicy. They had to put it in their mouth to sort of spit out for death scenes. And they're complaining it was too spicy, so they had to temper it with vinegar, he said.
Oh, gosh.
I also know that the actor that played Dick still has the killer's walking stick with bolts and stuff on it that jingles. He mentions it in his little interview on the DVD, which I felt really bad for him because he goes into this little shed, this little building to get the walking stick, and he just slams his head on the top of it really hard.
He comes across as quite a character in that scene.
He does.
Yeah,
he does. All right. So, do you have any behind-the-scenes information, Eric?
Okay. Well, James Bryan, previous to this, had been living in Utah, which is where it was filmed, and he'd been working on creating sound effects for the Grizzly Adams TV series for about 3 years. He also did we mention this, didn't we? He dubbed the voice of Dick, which it doesn't explain why he did that, but I'm assuming it's because the actor who played Dick he said a blackjack dealer, so I'm assuming he was maybe in Vegas or somewhere, so he probably wasn't around to do his own voiceover. In Stephen Thrower's book Nightmare USA, he does he absolutely lauds the film. He thinks it's close to a masterpiece, it seems. But he does. But before you fall in love with him, Nathan, he does call The Prey boring. He calls The Final Terror bland, and he accuses Friday the 13th Part 2 of stealing from Don't Go in the Woods Alone. Believe it or not. Yeah. So, and he also accuses that the Friday series, it wouldn't be the first time they pilfered from other sources. So he's damning of some of our other favorites, whilst also being kind of very nice to a film that most people are dismissive of. And some of H. Kingsley Thurber's score, which Justin was talking about, like a chimpanzee headbutting a Casio keyboard, was reused again in Frozen Scream the following year.
Okay. Blimey, they liked it that much. Well, I suppose it was cheap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, just very quickly, talking about the some of the sound effects. The one that really made me laugh, which actually isn't in the film. I mean, what on earth is this? It sounds like a chimpanzee, doesn't it? A chimpanzee or an elephant. But
it's the composer.
Sorry?
It's the composer.
What doing what though? I mean, it's
just speaking when he's not banging his head against the Casio keyboard.
Exactly. I mean, here it is again. It's just bizarre. I mean, they used. I don't know if you ever heard the trailer for Absurd, the Joe D'Amato, sort of Halloween 2 ripoff. That has the similar sound of an elephant in it, and I just don't. It's just bizarre, isn't it? But anyway, that's just a little aside. So, yes, anything else, Eric?
No, that's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. How about you, Joseph?
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the Code Red DVD. Actually, I've seen that, but I haven't, seen any of the special features. So, this information may either be on there or it may conflict. I don't know, but I spoke to the writer Garth Eliason about 10, maybe 11 years ago, and he said that his original script was basically, 4 campers go into the woods, and, there's a point where they sit around the campfire, and each one tells about, what would be their most, horrible way to die, hence the tagline, everyone has nightmares about the ugliest way to die. And the killer is like this is like this vindictive like asshole who overhears them, and so he goes about killing them in the way that they spoke of during the campfire scene. And he said that originally when he wrote the script, it was more of a straight-laced horror film, and there's supposed to be like these 4 like just grand death scenes, based off those. He wanted them to be so elaborate. Those were kind of like the the gimmick of the film. So he ended up he needed some money to pay rent or something, so he ended up selling the script to James Bryan. And basically it got overhauled, and he said basically in a roundabout way that James Bryan and his assistant really didn't know what they were doing, and that at one point James Bryan almost had a nervous breakdown because he didn't think he could finish the film. He thought everything was going wrong, and Garth said he was on set, and he said just people were like just didn't know what they were doing, and they're talking about shutting down production, and James was like, well, let's just kind of push through this, and then the film got made. But he said the original movie was supposed to be just kind of a straight horror film, but it just didn't turn out that way. And then he also goes on to say, which I don't know if this is true or not, because I've heard different things about it, but that after the film was done, James Bryan did have a kind of a nervous breakdown, and he went and lived in some cabin in Texas for like a few years, before finally coming back out of hiding to talk about the film. But that's about all I have on the movie.
No,
whether any of it's true or not, I don't know, but that comes straight from the writer, Garth Eliason.
Okay, because he was in the film, wasn't he? Didn't he play the deputy?
Yeah, he was one of the cops at the lake.
Oh, was he?
He has like a small role in it, I think.
Right. Okay.
I think you can barely even see him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't.
This has been 11 years ago. I spoke with him on the phone for like a couple of hours, but I always
he's interviewed on the DVD too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Does he say any of that?
I know he mentions the script stuff, but I mean, I cannot remember what all he says in his interview. I can't remember.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, but I mean, I didn't know about the breakdown, but hopefully, let's say it's coming from him. So if James Bryan wants to sue us, he can sue him instead. But obviously, it was. I mean, I haven't got much more to say apart from what I understand. It was basically the film kind of came about because James Bryan. There was rumours or there were stories about a serial killer who was targeting hikers around the Utah and Salt Lake City kind of area, and whether or not that was true or what, but that's kind of, there was a spark that made him want to make, a proper horror film, or, what turned into Don't Go Into the Woods Alone. He, from what I can understand, it was, he said the budget was something like $12,000, which is, ridiculously low. I think it kind of increased throughout. It was kind of shot, from what I can tell, quite episodically, in so much I think they just went up and shot bits and pieces, like the murder scenes, kind of out of sequence, which it really looks like in the film, doesn't it? Because, like I say, certainly with the kill of the two campers in the sleeping bag, that comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? There's not even any preamble or any point of view shots or any stalking or anything. It's just straight into the murder. I think the original script was called Sierra, wasn't it? And that's what when they started shooting, he kind of, I think from what the scriptwriter was saying was that it was kind of ripped up almost, and it was kind of, I think there was a handwritten script, and I think it was in Nightmare USA. It talks about how the 4 actors, or the 4 campers, really didn't want to do the scene around the campfire for some reason, and James Bryan says that the reason it was so bad was that they were acting badly on purpose because they didn't want to do it, so he might not use it, but of course he used it anyway, even though it kind of famously goes in and out of focus, doesn't it, throughout the film, throughout that scene. From what I understand, what he's saying, that when they found it quite a tough shoot because it was shot in the mountains and it's so high up that they got quite altitude sickness for quite a lot of it, so they're out of breath for much of it. I was wondering, was the actor who played Peter, was he British? Because he his voice, his accent slipped a few times, and it sounded like he sounded British in a couple of bits.
I thought it was just someone else doing the dubbing for him. I don't even know if that was really his voice or not.
Apparently, it was everyone. Well, from all the major characters were dubbed by the people who played them, apart from Dick. Was the only person who was dubbed by someone else, by the director. But that's what I heard, because he's interviewed the guy who plays Peter on the sort of on the extras, and he sort of says that he sounds like a transatlantic British accent. So I wonder if he was a British actor. But James Bryan was saying that I think there was probably a lot more stories behind the kind of the making of the film, but because from what I can tell, I think the actors thought they were making some kind of. They probably thought they were making something along the lines of Friday the 13th, even though the whole thing came about, I think, before Friday the 13th. And so I think a lot of the actors were a bit shocked about how shoddy the production was, I think. So I don't think it was particularly harmonious. But having said that, all of the actors did 2 camera pieces for the special edition. But I kind of guess that the whole special edition must have been shot over quite a few years, wasn't it? Because the woman who plays Ingrid, she talks about a film, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which she said is out in theatres now, and that was released in 2001. So I think the special edition came out in 2006, 2007, didn't it?
It may have just taken Code Red a long time to release it.
Yes. No, we're probably.
Gee, yeah. That's nothing new.
Yes, but it did. Quite a few of the things said 2006 on there. On thing. The other story that I heard, which I thought was really funny, was the woman who plays Joni was kind of. She said that she was moved to London with her husband, and she was doing some kind of production sort of job or something, and she thought, well, at least no one here is going to see that awful piece of shit film I made. Don't Go in the Woods. And she said she was out in London, and everywhere on all the buses and all the hoardings were posters for Don't Go in the Woods Alone, as it was released in the UK. And
did it get a theatrical release in the UK?
No, it was for.
Or it's just referring to video.
It was for its video release, and she said it was just everywhere, and it just kind of it was her worst nightmare. You know, if it come true that this film followed her from America, that she thought would never even see the light of day. And then, of course, it got even worse when it was banned. And ironically, it was her death scene, which was probably one of the reasons it got banned, because James Bryan says that he toned it down, didn't he? Because he said that it was too effective, and it is quite, if it's seen in isolation, it is quite a brutal scene, isn't it? I mean, it's not particularly well shot, but it's fairly brutal, and it goes on and on and on for quite a long time. Him attacking her with a machete, which, in a Friday the 13th film, Jason would take one swipe, wouldn't he, with a machete, and that would be it. But in this, she gets hacked and slashed with it, like for the best part of a minute. So the other thing, he said that ironically the film was rated R without any cuts, which was strange. I suppose possibly because it predated Friday the 13th, didn't it? Maybe it just escaped the Friday the 13th, backlash. But he said it possibly because the film had comedic elements to it that the MPAA were kind of less, weren't too rough on it. He also, because James Bryan, I think he had a background in pornography, didn't he? Which he talks about on the DVD commentaries, and he was saying that people have said, why has the film got no nudity in it? Because it's a bit strange, because it's one of the few slash movies from this era that has no nudity whatsoever, and especially coming from someone who's got a background in pornography. But he said, that there was some kind of court case going on at the moment in Salt Lake City about a theatre owner who was showing pornography. So he decided he didn't want to get in trouble with the law, so they didn't, he didn't shoot any boobies or anything like that. So I kind of guess I think that's pretty much everything I've got on it. Has anything else come to mind?
Well, I always wondered, does the DVD say anything about why Angie Brown's name is in a box in the credits?
It
Don't they say her agent requested it or something?
Why?
I think in the commentary they just said that was one of her stipulations, her name in a box.
Yes.
weird.
Yeah, and then she regretted being in the movie, so she probably regretted having that request.
Exactly.
And what's funny is that isolated her, in the cast, like maybe made her a little more, memorable, her name, because of that whole mystery. And then she regretted even being in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny.
What was that weapon that she had before her death scene? It looked like a piece of wood or something with a sharp point on it. That little piece of wood that she had, like, before she got killed. It's just an odd looking thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was
looked like a stick to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's
just weird looking.
Talking of sticks, the scene where the killer throws those spears, and he hits the and it could
so flimsy.
Yeah, but also Ingrid, doesn't she just get grazed a couple of times?
Yeah,
and,
on her arm and the side of her head.
Exactly, and somehow this turns into this massive injury that she has to be in hospital for forever. Well, not forever, but also...
Did you like the fact... oh, sorry, Justin.
No, I was going to say, when the killer throws the spears, because they seem to hit people, with great accuracy. Well, obviously not with Ingrid, but when you actually see him throwing them, they kind of wobble in the air, don't they? And go off in different directions. So that's what made me laugh.
Did you like the fact that Dr. Maggie thought it was a smart move to bring Ingrid back to the woods?
Yes, I know. I think Dr. Maggie should be sued for malpractice, shouldn't she?
Why was she even there? I mean, I know. It was like a manhunt for like a maniac, and Dr. Maggie just happens to show up. I guess she wasn't needed at the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, she's like the She's like the doctor in Nail Gun Massacre.
She must be.
Yeah. They should be. They should be a couple.
Well, that's another
solving crimes together.
Yes. Excellent. Was anything else we want to add on?
Yeah, I just wanted to. First of all, did anyone notice that guy with the incredible, horribly blonde perm and blonde moustache and big glasses?
Yeah.
He walks into the police. He walks into the police station about 12 minutes into the film. I was like, oh my god, that has to be a joke. I mean, people didn't dress like that in 1980, did they?
I have no idea.
Yeah, they did.
The other thing I noticed was that Ingrid and Peter suffer the same flaw that Ginny and Paul did in Friday the 13th Part 2, in that they think it's possible to kill somebody by stabbing them in the shoulder.
Oh.
It's like, oh, we'll stab him in the shoulder. Oh, it's over. Oh, thank God we've killed him.
And then they're stabbing what looks like it looks like they've laid a board across the actor who plays the killer's chest, and they're just stabbing that because it's going in like not even an inch, like the machete. It's like when they're stabbing him, it's barely even going into him.
I'm wondering as well if Ingrid managed to catch up on all the missing episodes of As the World Turns when she got back to civilization.
She really was upset about missing that.
She was. Yeah. I was thinking of you, Nathan, when she said that. That's probably what Nathan would be like now if he was out in the wilderness.
I would be. I'd be missing the Bold and Beautiful.
Soaps. Yeah.
I like when Peter's alone and he's afraid, and you hear him going, "Oh, I got this pump shotgun. I got to be careful with this hair trigger." When he's alone at night, it's that was his way of keeping the killer at bay, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think it's in Nightmare USA, and I think it was an interview with someone from it, and said that one of the actors, and I imagine he was talking about the person who played Peter, was he kept on saying to him, this actually it's probably a scriptwriter actually, but he kept on saying to him, tone it down a bit, you're being a bit too over the top. He said that's fine for theatre, but for film it's going to look really exaggerated. And the guy, it was either Peter or the other guy, but I imagine it was Peter, told him to mind his own business, and he said that when he watched the film he turned to him and said, actually you were right. But to be honest, that was probably the least of his problems, wasn't it, when you watched the film? I mean, I like the way that he was. I mean, he was kind of very physical, wasn't it? Role, because that real rolling around and sort of did a good job of looking scared. Put it that way.
Yeah, when they found Craig's body.
Well,
that was one of the examples of his exaggerated looks.
Yes, it was. I was thinking more about when he was hiding, when he's running away, and he's kind of grabbing for sticks and sort of rolling about, and it's kind of very physical role, wasn't it? In a very fetching pink T-shirt.
Well, one scene I thought was actually well done is, the scene where he sees the fisherman and he's waving to him, and then like the fisherman's looking back and like Peter's kind of looking like, why are you looking at me that way? And then you see that what the fisherman's looking at is the killer standing above Peter.
Yes.
Like that was a decent scene too.
It was really effective. Yeah.
This movie, maybe, with a higher budget and some talent, could have actually, been a classic, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a classic, all right, but not for those reasons.
But it's a classic for me.
Indeed, and also we talk a little bit about the unmade sequel, because he does talk about, I don't know if there was ever seriously any thought about, but making a sequel beyond the director thinking it'd be a good idea, because presumably this film must have made money for somebody, mustn't it? Because it was made for such a small amount of money, but it did play theatrically, didn't it, in the States? So it must have made some money. But he was talking on the commentary. He talks about because the little girl of the woman the painter who gets killed. There's this toddler there, and at the end you see the toddler playing with an axe, as it kind of foreshadowing, presumably, what the sequel would have been about, which would have been quite strange, wouldn't it? With the killer dead, they could have made Don't Go Into the Woods Alone 2, and it would have been a toddler with an axe. That would have been interesting.
Well,
she grew up to be.
Yes, I'm assuming it would be 20 years later. Yeah,
well, that's a shame.
But you know that Don't Go in the Woods it is sort of a sequel to The Forest. It was released as The Forest Part 2 in Australia. I know that much.
Which is odd because it was made before The Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think have we exhausted Don't Go Into the Woods Alone, or
I'm exhausted anyway.
Yes. Okay. Well, you're itchy.
Yes, he's exhausted, and he might become irrational.
Yeah.
Which
I have to say,
there's a lot of stress under that kind of.
There's a lot of pressure under that kind of stress, and he might become irrational.
Didn't she write to you one time, Justin?
Who, Dr. Maggie?
Yeah, the actress that played Dr. Maggie sent you an email.
Did she? I don't remember that.
Oh, I'm pretty. Well, she sent somebody an email that reviewed the movie on their site, because I remember them saying something about it. I thought it was pretty funny. Because she was pretty much saying in the email that it was pretty awful, and she couldn't believe half the lines that they were making her say.
No, it does ring a bell now. Actually, I have spoken to lots of or had emails from various people over the years. And I do wonder sometimes, when people they Google themselves and then they see what I've written about them. And hopefully poor Cherry will not hear, Eric's cruel jibes about her beak.
Hey, it was your cruel. It was your...
Yeah. It was you that did it, not Eric.
Oh, I'm sure with a little bit of editing. A little bit of editing, I'm sure I can make it sound like Eric said it.
Evil
minx. I know. I'm sitting here stroking a pussy like a Bond.
Just do your best Scottish accent.
Well, I don't know.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because you're Scottish.
Hey?
No, I'm just wondering. I always heard that Scottish people and Irish people don't get along. Is that true?
No, Scottish people and English people don't get along.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
And Irish people and English people don't get along generally. Well, they do.
Well, not in my part of the world, but yeah, in some parts, yes.
Is it also true, Eric, that about 2,000 years ago, Ireland was an advanced civilization until they discovered alcohol?
It was true, yeah.
Until they discovered rum and coke.
Yeah. Discovered Malibu and pineapple juice. Yeah.
Oh, well, we are going slightly off topic, but I think possibly we should go for some feedback. Before we do that, we'll get Joseph a clip here to tell you how to get in contact with the show.
Our voicemail lines are open at 858-233-9281. You can reach us via email at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com. We are on Twitter. That's twitter.com/THC_podcast. Facebook fans can find us at facebook.com/The Hysteria Continues, The Body Count Continues, or Hysteria-Lives. You can check out Justin's website at hysteria.co.uk. You can check out my website at the-bodycount-continues.com. Nathan has his own side project at blogtalkradio.com/the-axe2grind-show. That is AXE, not AX. And finally, if you would like to purchase some merchandise, you can look us up on cafepress.com/the Hysteria Continues, and we really appreciate you listening. Thanks, everyone.
This is Jared McVeigh from Island of Blood, a.k.a. Whodunit, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
All right, we're back, and we have a voicemail finally. It's been a while, but well, not counting Patrick from Scream Queens, because he actually sent that in himself. It's not a true voicemail, but anyway, this is from Cabe Gaplin on the Body Count Continues forums. You got that, Justin, right?
I have. Let me just put it on.
Hi, I'm a terrible impression of Troy McClure. You may remember me in such roles as Horny Gypsy number 5 in The Prey and Nightclub Customer number 27 in The Case of the Bloody Iris. You may also remember me as Paco's Imaginary Friend number 2 in Bloody Moon and Mature Camp Counselor number 9 in Friday the 13th Part 2. And you're listening to The Hysteria Continues. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to don a disguise and then visit the local aquarium.
Excellent.
Pretty good impression, I'd say.
That's very good. Very good. That's
even remember Troy's weird fish thing.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Well, thank you, Cabe. That was fantastic. So I might have to slip that in at some point at the beginning of an episode. What?
Quit slipping it in, Justin.
Yeah, slipping it in.
Oh, for God's sake. Get your mind out of the gutter.
You truly are the naughtiest boy in all of Bristol.
That's true.
But he's a real boy, Eric. He's a real boy.
Well, let's not go too far. That's a bit honestly, that's a bit far-fetched.
I tell some chilling tales.
Indeed. So, Joseph, if you've got a voice, that's our the first voicemail for ages. So, please do phone in because we do like to hear from you, and we won't take the piss out of you. We promise, won't we? Unlike Cherry.
Well, just a little bit,
maybe, but only in a nice way. Yes. So, Joseph, what we've got because again, I've said before, and it's all going to be. We'll have to tell people on the forums actually, because if you have written in, we are taking a bit of an extended break. Although you won't really see that because we're still going to have content hopefully every 2 weeks. But because most of August is out for me and Erica, are kind of off jet setting with famous people into Spanish climes. Yeah. That we're pre-recording quite a lot of a number of shows. So the feedback's going to be a bit out of kilter. So but please do send us feedback. But you have one.
We love feedback.
We do.
We love.
That's what keeps us going.
Feed us. Whatever. Yes. Yes.
Not in a human centipede kind of way, though.
No. And don't fist us or just feed us. Feed our feedback.
Eric, do you have any leader beans? Any
what beans?
Leader beans.
What are leader beans?
Remember, we love the leader. This bean looks just like the leader.
Yes. I do know leader. Leader.
So, anyway, moving on. Joseph, you've got another bit of feedback, haven't you?
Yeah, this is from Shane Murray. He writes and says, "Hello. I just wanted to say that I recently discovered the Hysteria Continues podcast, and I want to thank all of you guys for a fun and informative time. Your movie knowledge is superb, and the movies you guys choose are perfect. So again, thank you. Take care, guys. Shane J. Murray."
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah.
And that is all I have for now.
Okay. I'm just trying to think if you've got anything. Well,
can I just say that a guy called Steve M. from Edinburgh, he's actually from Leicester, in the United Kingdom, posted on our wall a list of top 10 worst slashers that he found somewhere on the internet.
Oh my God.
And it contained all of our favourites.
Oh, really?
I know.
Did you see it, Justin? No?
I haven't looked at it yet.
What remind me what's in the list again? I'm just trying to call
Madman is one of them.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else?
Here they are now. I have them here. Number 10, The Burning. These are the worst slashers of all time, apparently. Of the 80s, sorry. The Burning at number 10. At number 9, Happy Birthday to Me. At number 8, American Gothic. Did that have a different name over here? Was that called Hide and Shriek or something in the UK?
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
it was.
At number 7, Maniac, which we were discussing earlier. Number 6, Hell Night, which we were also discussing. Number 5, Madman. Number 4, Mountaintop Motel Massacre, which I haven't seen.
I would agree with that one almost. It's pretty bad.
Number 3 is Chopping Mall. Number 2, Slumber Party Massacre. Oh, Nathan, sorry. And number 1 is Don't Go in the Woods Alone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's like you said earlier, though. This is by somebody that, or like it seems like somebody that hasn't seen a lot of horror, because there are way worse movies out there.
Oh yes.
Go watch Night of Horror. Go watch Axum. Go watch Savage Water.
Night of Horror.
Or don't. Actually, don't.
No. Well, I have dug another little bit of feedback up, and this is from Ross Typograph. He says, I just wanted to say I absolutely love the podcasts. I've been following them for months now. Know this, they couldn't be a more fulfilling listen on my commute to work nearly daily. You've gone over so many of my faves and turned me on to some new ones. Can't believe I've never seen a sadist. He also goes on to say, oh God, also, a while ago you mentioned Psychosis, the awful Charisma Carpenter flick. It was a tube of shit puree. Really hilarious. So glad you shone a light on it. So, thank you, Ross. So we're reaching out and touching people everywhere.
And I've just got one more from our Facebook page from Kelly Briers McQueen again. And you were saying that Kelly is a bloke, yes? Is that what you said, Justin? Yeah, sorry, Kelly. To me, the name Kelly just conjures up, Kelly Lee Curtis, Jamie's sister. But he was wondering if we were ever going to cover Devil Times 5, because he says he was pleasantly surprised by it. Now, I've never seen Devil's Times.
Oh, it's worth watching.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Is Leif Garrett in that film?
He is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely
Boss Hogg is in it as well.
Who is?
Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard.
All right. You see, I never
And it
watched
has a cat fight.
It's also that's the film that's produced by someone called something like Harry J. Wank, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Jordan Wank.
Jordan, something like.
It's because Kelly posted a poster for it as well when he was inquiring. Yeah, Jordan Wank. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Yes.
Just a couple of things from. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the poster he put up it seems to say that it played on a double bill with Snuff, the Roberta Findlay movie.
Oh, interesting. I've never seen Snuff.
No, neither have I.
It does sound pretty dull.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, I still like it.
Well, when we're talking about bad, we are going to be getting on to some serious bad for the next show.
But actually, I have a couple more things from the forum. We were talking about the Bloody Moon episode and how crazy it was, but apparently a lot of people on the board seem to like it.
That's good.
Someone says, I friggin' love Bloody Moon. Another person says, I'll probably listen because you know what they say, suffering is good for pleasure. And then Yachtnik writes in and says, this podcast has quite a repertoire of chilling tales. BTK says, that was a goddamn jumbled nightmare and I loved every second of it. And then, let's see, Obscure Cinema 101 says, the iTunes version is only an hour 50. I demand a refund. And then he also writes, you guys have outdone yourselves. The show was hilarious. I'm sorry, but I just have to give my top 3 cheesiest dialogue bits. But he picks something from Master Blaster, Twisted Nightmare, and I don't know what that is. It's all whited out. Oh, it's, well, who knows? I don't know. But anyway.
How have you whited it out?
Yeah.
Well, he posted a YouTube clip, but for some reason it's not showing up.
Oh, okay.
But finally, BHY1117 says, just when I thought the podcast couldn't get more twisted, this masterpiece of fucked up appears. Your pain has been appreciated, gents. And BAKA, Baka, I guess that's his name, says, I'm extremely happy top 3s are back. Miss them so much.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you very much for everyone who's fed back. It's been it's really nice to hear from you. So keep on doing so. And yes, just to let you know what we're going to be covering next. I thought, what kind of movie could I pick that I could outdo Nathan on some of his picks?
And so...
Surely there's none. There can't be anything.
And I mean that in a nice way, Nathan, obviously, is I'm going to pick Doris even Wishman's A Night to Dismember from 1983.
Yay!
Yeah, and so I've never been able to watch the whole thing all the way through. So I am picking it for your, basically our pain will be your pleasure, hopefully. But I do know that actually we're going to have to play a little bit of the commentary track, just a few snatches of the commentary track, because it's absolutely hilarious. So, and Doris Wishman, of course, gave us Deadly Weapons, Chesty Morgan's finest moment. And this film is the most fucked up, weird / movie you will ever see. So it should make for a fun episode. So that's coming up next time. Is there anything else we want to say before we play out with the incredible closing music from Don't Go Into the Woods Alone?
Oh, I just hope. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say apparently they say on the commentary track for Don't Go in the Woods that this was a joke, that the composer of the film sent him over the tracks for the incidental music for the film, and as a joke he added this as an addendum, and okay. James Bryan thought it was hilarious, and so he decided to put it over the end credits.
Right. Yes. Yeah, hilarious.
I just want to say I hope by our next episode I will be all itch free, because I'm never going back to the woods alone. I'll go with someone else.
Don't let that one Soddy Daisy incident ruin your appreciation for the outdoors.
Well, I've been twice. The first time I was fine, but the problem with the second time is I changed clothes in the woods. So I think it must have got into my clothing somehow.
Ooh.
So
yeah, well, don't be doing it in the woods then.
Well, I skinny dipped I skinny dipped the first time. I didn't skinny dip the second time.
You're such a slasher movie victim in the making.
Exactly. That's what you meant to survive.
That's what I was going for. I was trying to get someone to come out and kill me.
Did someone ping a shot at your backside?
Yes.
Like in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Mm. Yeah. Well, we should... okay, let's give me some ideas.
Oh, there it is.
There
she is. I bet it's her. My skinny dipping friend.
Ooh.
Buzzing on my phone.
Has she got a rash?
No, actually, she's rash free. She somehow got unscathed.
Maybe you should ask her how that got into your clothing.
Maybe I'll give it to her.
Well, okay.
Sure you will.
Yes. What could be more romantic? What could be a more romantic present than giving someone a rash?
Yeah.
Hooray! Thank you for joining us again for Don't Go Into the Woods. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will be back with some Doris Wishman. And to play us out is that Teddy Bear's Picnic. So stay safe.
No.
What was that?
What?
Don't go out in the woods tonight, you probably will be thrilled. Don't go out in the woods tonight, you probably will be killed. There's a friendly beast who lurks about and likes to feast. You won't get out without being killed and chopped up in little pieces. Don't go out in the woods tonight, you probably will be thrilled. Don't go out in the woods tonight, you probably will be killed. There's a friendly beast who lurks about and likes to feast. You won't get out without being killed and chopped up in little pieces.